Greetings again, everybody. Welcome back to Dark Souls 2. While today's video isn't exactly very long compared to some of the others, it is a major one, because we are actually going to fight our first old one this time around. And of course, yes, we're back in Iron Keep. And while we're gonna wrap it up today, there is actually a way to skip Smelter Demon, so I'd say first things first, let's do that first thing here. We could have, of course, done this last time we were here, but I did want to defeat Smelter Demon for obvious reasons. Mainly to show him, of course. But I usually do fight him. While I don't think it's one of the best designed bosses in the game, in fact, he doesn't really rank among my top 3, 4, or even 10. He at least is a boss I for some reason feel compelled to fight every time. I don't even know why. But yeah. As soon as you turned off the fire in here, you can also climb up this ladder, which will actually lead to another ladder, which we can see right ahead. And that's how you skip Smelter Demon. And now we basically went in a circle. But it doesn't matter, we're gonna make progress now. Now right ahead you will see 2 ironclad, yes, not old ironclad, in fact ironclad. And you'll notice that I actually shoot both of them. The reason is to make them have some sort of space between them, so I can maybe take one out before the other arrives. You might be wondering why I don't pull them out one by one. Well, see, the rightmost one, which is also the one that's further behind, will actually smash the ground, and one of those panels will fall down and you'll have to jump. In order to avoid that, it's best to pull them both. You can only pull the first one if you like, and the other one will first smash down that panel and then retreat into that room there. But you can also just attack him, and you will be able to just walk across, no problem. See? It's dented. Had you hit it like 2 more times, it would have fallen down, and you can see that ghost there who dropped down there. Yeah, that's not a good thing to do, in fact. And now that guy usually just starts walking towards you, or not towards you, but his pathfinding actually tries to get to you, but this time around he decides to shoot at me instead. There would be an easy way to deal with him if he had walked, but yeah, we're gonna have to do it that way. Now about that easy way, you see the lever there? Yeah, you could have waited for him to just step on that platform and he'd be dead. And now we took care of 2 ironclads. The obstacle we get instead is rather easy to pass, because it's just flamethrowers, which will just spew fire every couple seconds. And yeah, you don't even have to fight anyone here, but you will need to be careful, because yeah, this can happen. But alright, we are back now, so let's be a little more careful and actually do this. Right below us, you see to the right there's a chest. This is the one chest that's hidden on smoldering hot platforms that we're actually gonna get. And to get it, we need to do a couple things. We're not gonna get it in New Game because we're not really prepared right now. But in New Game Plus, we have everything to make it a rather pleasant journey. But a New Game Hildwood is just gonna pass it because we don't really need the reward for it, really. In fact, we don't even need the New Game Plus because we already have it. A second copy just might come in handy though, who knows. Okay, so now first things first, we need to take care of the guys down there. People who already played the game will notice that there's lava running to the left there. This is because I stepped on one of the pressure plates down there. I did that because I went down there before and actually managed to die. This phantom here is only there on New Game Plus and it's very annoying. But now we are ready to do our thing. So you might have noticed that I am, well, dressed in something I actually gender swapped for, because this doesn't look good on a man, I think. He's too big and bulky to make it look good. It has very high fire resist and is still very light. I also used flash sweat and covered myself in water. And now I used a life gem. Normally this would outright kill you, but look at that, we even heal thanks to the life gem. We have very high fire resist, and were it not for the fact that we're literally on fire right now, you would probably not believe me that this normally does damage, but it does. It also does damage to our equipment, and in fact my third dragon ring just now broke. So it's a good thing I have like one more, maybe two more, I'm not even sure. I do, by the way, believe that the order in which you apply your fire resistances is important here, because this is the only way I managed to survive. We now have one more copy of Chaos Storm, which might come in handy at some point, who knows, but I doubt I'll ever use it. But this is the hardest item to get with that technique. So it's the only one you need to see, really. And yeah, look at this chest. It does in fact have locks, 2 of them. The iron chests always have 2 locks if they're a mimic. And I could have probably used a different spell when it does damage more reliably than that. But I'm sure I won't get eaten this time around. And looking at it from above, it kind of looks really freaky. It's almost like you're observing a spider or some kind of insect from above. But yeah, at least we got a goodie for defeating it. The dark armor we get here is actually a item from the first game, which was the armor of the Dark Wraiths. In the first game you had to join the Covenant and level it up sufficiently to actually get it. Here it's just hidden in random chests. And the winged lightning spear we got, or a lightning winged spear in fact, might also be a nod to the first game, because the first mimic we found there was actually a lightning spear. Not the miracle, a lightning infused spear actually. But yeah, this is a part that we completely skipped in our regular new game. This Pharaoh's contraption we saw there actually will release healing liquid if we activate it, but we're not gonna do it. And I completely forgot that that guy was there. Thankfully, this room here provides a rather safe environment to take care of him, especially if you need to heal because you got hit for being careless. We are using a lance this time around rather than a spear, and the lance is basically a slightly slower but much more powerful spear. The running attack and the heavy attack actually kind of do a charge move. The running attack is actually more powerful, or rather longer. It does multiple hits and has the ability to stun lock those guys, as we just saw. Now up here is an encounter that I hate, so I will want to be sure to take care of that guy as soon as possible. I could have also gone to the other side maybe, but having only one side full of enemies is actually very helpful here. Makes it easy to dodge. And I'm not even sure if that one guy is actually there on regular New Game. But since I didn't really go there in New Game this time around, I have no way to say for sure. Had we not taken out that one guy on the right so quickly and easily, this would have been a much harder encounter. Because having to deal with one guy there fighting them normally while you get shot with giant arrows from the other side isn't exactly easy or fun. But thankfully we could make it rather easy, and we could even take out those two guys without much trouble because we have a weapon that actually is able to attack both of them if they're lined up right. And here we get another Black Knight weapon, the Great Axe. Another returning weapon from the first game. And now we have to very carefully drop down here, otherwise we will probably get burned alive. Speaking of getting burned alive, the reason this whole place is so fiery is probably because, well, at least the description of the smelter sword states that after the smelter demon killed the Iron King, this place got kind of set ablaze, or rather it was devoured in flames. But quite possibly it's also related to this place being built out of iron, which made it so immensely heavy that it sunk into the ground. Which is kind of an interesting bit of lore, I think, really. So this might actually be magma or lava, whichever one's which. It could also be molten iron though, who knows. But yeah, you should deal with those guys with arrows. The Red Phantom, of course, isn't there on regular New Game, but the other one is. In fact, the other guy and the Phantom as well will drop down if you approach this part from the other direction, which is right down there. From those upper stairs, which is actually where we left off a New Game. Which means that as soon as we drop down there, we will have caught up to New Game. Well, catching up is kind of the wrong term. We actually did make some progress on a detour. But it's entirely optional, of course, and now we're back on track. I'm sure that Ironclad here is supposed to be scary or something, but he really isn't. Those guys are easiest to fight from the front. If you manage to get behind them, they will just, well, fall on you, and that will hurt a lot. And they can't do that if you can't get behind them. In fact, I recommend never getting behind them. The sides are fine though, but the front is so much easier, really. And that thing looks deadly. I wonder if it'll drop down again. Let's find out. And yes, it does. On New Game and New Game Plus, it would outright kill that guy, but on New Game Plus Plus, which is what we're on right now, he actually has enough HP to survive the hit. Not that he's too much of a challenge without it. These Ironclad are fairly standard enemies. The only difference to the old Ironclad we fought before, by the way, is actually the fact that they don't have a coat of moss. And they probably have a little more HP. They also dropped the Ironclad set rather than the old Ironclad set, which is a more functional version of the old Ironclad set, which is much older. Makes sense so far. And that guy is actually wearing the Ironclad set. But not any pants, of course, because why would he? He's also using the Demon Great Hammer, which is a weapon from the first game, which we would get from the very first boss, the tutorial boss, if we beat him on the first encounter. But we don't need to worry about that. That guy can be pretty tough if you don't manage to stunlock him, but if you do, he's no problem. But he can hit pretty hard if he hits you, so you should best try to avoid that. I mean, duh. That lever made it a lot quieter all of a sudden, because it turned off all of the flamethrowers, including the very first one that had the iron key. And here's a graphical glitch. That white thing, if we look at it, turns the screen dark. That white thing, by the way, itself is a glitch. There's really nothing more to it, trust me. There have been quite a few people who have tried to read some meaning into that, but don't do it. It's not worth it, really. And now this was actually the final bonfire before the next boss, which, as I already spoiled, is actually the first old one. Now those old ones, well, what we know about them, we've been told to fight them. That's about all we know. Well, we also know that they are so incredibly ancient that no one even remembers the name anymore. And yes, plunge attack. The height difference actually gave us a little bit of extra damage when we did the plunge attack there, or rather the jump attack, which then turned into a plunge attack due to the height. But yeah, we can now look at most of the area we've explored, only we can see the outsides, not the insides. And this is the bull idol. We've just come from it, the last bonfire was there, and we could also see it from the window with Magarold. But now, let's actually do this. So this is the Iron King, or Old Iron King rather, and what we do know about him is that he looks like a generic demon right now, but we also know that he's in fact dead. The Smelter demon set him on fire. He is probably the biggest boss enemy of the game, and the gimmick is that we have to dodge his attacks, and eventually he does some attack that basically, yes, has his fist resting on the ground so we can attack it. That's not the only opportunity to attack him, of course, there's plenty more. Especially if you have ranged attacks, which technically allows you to attack him at any time. And we could hit him now, but our weapon has fairly short range, so it's not worth it. This is probably the best way to hit him, if you manage to dodge it, because I think it's the longest opportunity to actually get in hits, so you can get in the most hits possible. Depending on where he's positioned, dodging that flame is more difficult because you might not necessarily be able to just dodge it by hiding there. But the Old Iron King isn't actually a very hard boss. Once you figure out how to dodge his attacks, it's all there's to it, really. Occasionally he will also dive down, and depending on where you stand, he will resurface at a different spot. So if you have a shitty spot, you can just, well, manipulate him into showing up someplace where he's easier for you to manage. But that's it, that's the first old one. Rather anticlimactic, isn't it? I mean, he looked big and imposing, but that's about it. As a reward, aside from his soul, of course, we do get a Sublime Bone Dust, which will allow us to upgrade our Estus Flask a little further. It's been a while since we found one of those. And on here is a bonfire. It's not a normal bonfire though. It is a primal bonfire. And if you rest at it, we will actually not rest at it, we will warp back to Majula. But now it's boss weapon time. This is the Iron King Hammer. It has fairly standard Great Hammer moveset, but it's slower than most, I would dare to say. The heavy attacks do AoE fire damage, but since we don't have the strength to efficiently wield it one-handed, it won't do it for us. Two-handed, however, no problem, it'll do it. The description, by the way, will actually shed some light on whether or not this was actually the Iron King. It wasn't really. The description states that the corpse of the old Iron King became the vessel that bred Icarus Earth. And we don't really know how it became that, but maybe we will. Because if we beat him in New Game Plus, we get an additional soul, which will allow us to make additional weapons too. But if you want to learn more about that and the lore that comes with it, you'll have to read the post or watch that bonus video I made. But that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you again next time.